Designing posters can be a challenge to some, however, there are a few tips I can give you that will help you substantially. In this video, sponsored by the app that we'll be using to design this, Linearity Curve, I'm going to show you how you can easily create this style of poster in just a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to choose an A3 document. A3 is always a really nice size. Now, the trick with any poster really is to have a grid, which is a way of making sure that we remain continuous, consistent, and harmonious throughout. It sort of sets out a force field of where the work will be, and it helps you organize certain bits of information. So what we want to do is, first of all, go to View. We want to go to Show Grids. This is a bit too small. However, we can keep it like this. We can actually change the grid size if we like to, but right now I'm pretty happy with that. We'll see the ruler on the left, and the way that I like to sort of create my guides and margins is sort of like this, where I create it from 2 down from the top, roughly 2 down from the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect, your grid. It just gives you an idea of where things will be. And all I'm doing is clicking on the top, and that creates our margins for us really easily. Over here on the left, we have a layer panel and linearity curve. We also have all our tools down here, including a shape builder tool. And then over here, we have our properties on the right. So it's a very intuitive app to use for any vector design. So first of all, what I want to do is bring in an image I quite like. Let's see, let's just bring it in. We may have to make it smaller, which is absolutely fine. I'm wanting to stack this image on the top like so, then have information at the bottom. This works really well because it actually uses bits of the golden ratio. It uses a really nice proportion way of getting across information in nice hierarchy. So I'm going to press Shift and G, and that gets rid of the grids right there. Holding Shift, I can scale this in and out, and I want it to fit to the margins here. I've got Snap to, or Smart Guides on, I believe it's Smart Guides. Yes, Smart Guides. It snaps to my margins for me really easily. But it's a bit too large because down here, I want to block out some text. Now, the only problem with this is that it's quite large. It's taking up a lot of the space in the poster, which is what we want. However, we know there's 2 more boxes of information I want to put in. I need to put the word martini as the second most important part of this design. We're showing a martini, we spell the word martini, then we show how it's made. And we do that in a layered order. So big part here, I'm going to go ahead and roughly get my rectangle tool out, and we're going to just draw a rectangle like so. And this is going to block it out for us. We're going to get rid of the fill. Then we're going to add a black stroke to this, bringing that down to like 2 points or something like that. Boom, nice and easy. Okay, yeah, so this is still a bit too large. So with this image here, we can do a couple of things. We can take this whole image, and inside of Linearity Curve, what we can do is actually auto trace. This is image tracing. If we did that, it might look a bit strange. It won't have the desired effect, or it might do. As you can see here, it does have a cool effect to it. It does have a really cool effect to it, and it didn't take long. I can actually remove background with 1 click as well, which is nice, and it has pretty good lines there. It shows us the areas that we need, which is great. But what I want to do is just simply crop it. I need to crop it from the bottom a little bit. I want it to come up to this grid line here. Remember, I'm working within the grids. I'm going to move this down a bit too. Press enter, and boom, we are happy. Happy days. In fact, I don't like the fact that I cropped it at the top there, so I'm going to just leave that crop there. Let's zoom out a little bit. I like the positioning there. Nice. Okay, what about the text for the bottom? Well, let's map that out again. I'm just going to alt drag this, and we're going to create a little box for our text, just so we can visualize it essentially. Okay, so now we have our top image, our main one. We're going to write the word martini here. We can find a cool font. Then we're going to write some more information down here. And this is going to be a very utilitarian design where there's nothing really aesthetically pleasing other than the main image, forcing the viewer to really appreciate the image and to appreciate the information for what they are. So I'm going to just get my text tool out. I'm just going to draw some text here, and I'm going to write the word martini like so. You'll see in Linearity Curve that the word martini, we get this huge text box, so it kind of works a bit differently. Over here on the right, we can create outlines from text if we wanted to, which we don't want to do because we want to edit the font. But we can also press this button here, and this button allows the text to be constrained to the text box. If we press this green one and shift, it will increase the size of the text for us. So it's very easy. And by the way, you can do this all on the iPad. So go ahead and click the link, the sponsored link for Linearity Curve in the description to try it out for free. Okay, this color is a bit off. Let's go to the fill and make that kind of black. And let's change the font. I like Lisbeth Display. I'm going to press this button again just to make sure it's centered. I like Lisbeth Display. It's full of character in there. I quite like it. Now, I have encountered an issue. This looks really amateur right now, and the reason why is because the word martini and the box isn't in line. It just doesn't feel right. So what we need to do is actually increase this text frame around it that we're keeping, by the way, because it looks cool, by just holding Option and just increase it by 1 square or so. That looks a lot nicer. It's like it can actually breathe. And in fact, I'm going to shrink it down a bit so that the edges of the type are in line left and right as well. So we've got a nice sort of border balance there. Let's zoom out again. You'll notice that I zoom in and zoom out a lot. The reason for zooming in and out is a poster is supposed to be seen from quite far away. And if someone's interested in it, they can look at the sub details later. So they first see the martini, then they read the word martini in a cool font, which gives a nice time period sort of knowledge to the viewer. Then we get the text down at the bottom, which shows them how it's made. Now for this text at the bottom, I'm just going to create a text box here. I'm going to bring this down to about 12 points and change this to Helvetica Neue, just by doing all that you saw there, and bring in my text. Now, when we brought in the text, we want it to fit within the grid as well. We want that invisible force field around it. However, it can be slightly smaller because the text is slightly small. There's something about having a really boring typeface like Helvetica Neue with this really fun characteristic typeface. It just makes it feel very utility based, like a Stanley knife. This is the design. It's supposed to be like a boring looking Stanley knife. It just works well. Okay, so we have our text there. If we wanted to, we can increase this text box, which is nice. The way that I've done it is I've justified it to the left, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm pressing this one in the middle. This box creates an auto height for the text box, as you see here. So if I move this outwards, press this, it will automatically shorten and lengthen the box for us. To get the text over to the right-hand side, I'm just going to get it and I'm going to just paste it in the text that I need to have in there, making sure that it fits nicely all the way throughout. Now this can actually move slightly more this way if we need to, and so can this. We can use the grid for this, but however, it's just a lot of words. The way that I'm making sure that people can read this is about having 7 to 9 words on each line. Having 7 to 9 words on this body text allows the viewer to read it without becoming fatigued. If you have a lot of text that's really long, for instance, like this, no one's going to read all of that information. It's just going to be way too much for the eyes to scan the paper. We want to make it as easy and as adaptable for the viewer as possible. Nice. So that looks good so far. We're missing a bit of color. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to lock this layer here. That locks all of our work. I'm going to go up here, press to insert a layer. I'm going to bring that layer to the background here, and we're going to call this background. I always say BG as a background. Now I'm going to get up my rectangle tool again, and we're going to create a rectangle surrounding the entire artboard here. We've got a stroke. I might keep that stroke for now, but for the fill, we're going to go for something a bit gray. I've chosen this weird sort of green, gray, light color. Now with the background, I'm going to press lock. That means that I can no longer edit that background. Very easy peasy. I'm going to get rid of the guides right now as well, just have a proper look at this. Now there's a few things we can do. I think the illustration is slightly boring, so I want to add in some more things in there. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'm organizing all my layers here. I'm going to create some leaves because I don't see any leaves. You probably don't have them in a martini, but I think this will look cool. Create a circle here. We're going to make sure the fill is all white, or even that nice white color. And the stroke, I think, can be a slightly lighter black or gray of some sort. Now I want to create a leaf out of this, and the easiest way of doing this in linearity curve is by just alt dragging, so duplicating it and then highlighting them both, and we can use the shape builder tool. So select both of the shapes, go to this little tool to the left, hold alt and just click on the bits that you don't want, and boom, we have a nice looking shape right there. Let's increase the size of this bad boy, probably a bit too much. Alt drag, just bring over here, just creating something quite abstract. I quite like that, it kind of fills out the space, but we could maybe like, move it a bit more. These smart guides are annoying me. Let's turn off smart guides so we can move this freely. That's better. Okay, so we have a cool image with some vector illustration in there. Very basic vector illustration, I'll be honest. Not bad though. We have the instructions for how a martini is. Everyone can see what it is. Now, I want to add some sort of line work in here as well. So I feel like I'm going to get my line tool up. Here it is, just under there. I'm just going to create, I don't know how many lines, but I just create this line here. And a little trick that you can do is you can alt drag it once and then just do this again. And if I want it to fit perfectly without being in the grid, we can do that by just highlighting all of these, go up to the vertical distribution and press it, and it will automatically distribute it for us really nicely right there. I quite like that, it adds a bit more to it. The last thing I want to do is just label myself, or just call this martini as like the design of it, that's the name, and people like to have these little captions at the top. We can use the grid again to make sure it's right in line. Duplicate that across, justify it to the right there as well. How to make. Now this seems a bit too large when it's zoomed out. So a cool little trick is we're going to just half the size of it. And we do that over here. So that's 12 points, 12 divided by 2, 6. So we press 6 and it looks pretty good when it's 6. It's just smaller enough for people to see, but it maintains a system. The most important part is that wasn't created in a vacuum. It was actually created through dividing totally the size of one object to another. So this bottom text is exactly 2 times the size of this label text here. However, you don't have to follow that rule. It's just one that I like to do. And there you have it. Once you're ready, you just press export. You choose your quality, add a watermark, include the background if you want a watermark so that people know that they can't just use it. And boom, there you go. If you enjoyed this video of Linearity Curve, then I would suggest to check it out. If you're someone who doesn't use other design software and you're looking for one that you can use directly on your iPad, on your Mac, or on your phone, then this Linearity Curve is a great software for you to use, and it's very affordable. Plus, you get to try it out for free if you click the link down below in the description. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you soon.